Born and raised in Mother Zambia, land of refuge and a home of peace. To many who need a place to go where they are free. Disagree and we may argue, but we have never been at war. In spite of all that we have been through, we are still one Zambia, one nation under God.
My Zambia, my identity, this is who I am.
It's who you are. My Zambia, my identity, this is who I am. It's who you are.
Tizibane, Tuzibane, Tishibane, Twishibane, Tumanyane,
Hey, Francis.
Tuyukane, Tulipashane, Twishibane.
Well, thank you, Francis.
God has blessed us for a reason. Yeah, all we have is not for show. No, no, we must never take for granted all this peace we know. It's all by the grace of God, yeah. Take a look at other places. Oh, all they know is fighting, war and destruction. In spite of all that we are going through, we are still one Zambia, one nation under God. My Zambia,
My identity, this is who I am. It's who you are.
my Zambia, my identity, this is who I am. It's who you are.
Tizibane, Tizibane.
Tishibane, Twishibane, Tumanyane, Tuyukane.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to spend a few minutes with me and a few moments with me here on SML TV. The reason I was laughing is because, you know, Facebook audiences are some of the most impatient. They're some of the most impatient audiences that you could ever come across. I mean, I was reading one of the comments here. Let me tell you what this is. This is McDonald's Jongwe? McDonald's Jongwe says, all right, Mr. Mayor, can we start already? Zambia is a no business nation. Oh, dear. So, you know, when I read comments like that, they just crack me up. Guys, thank you so much for being with me for a few moments. And before I begin, as is my custom, I would love to do a few shout outs to you that are with me for a few moments. Again, Audrey Benkele. Good evening, Wachitambala. Hello to you, Audrey. Listen to this name, Nkusuwila. I just love your selection of music. Well, that song right there, in fact, let me take a moment here and throw that up there. That is one of the most beautiful songs, beautiful patriotic songs that I have ever heard. It's non-partisan, pro-Zambian. And that is the way to go oftentimes, is pro-Zambian, non-partisan. And I think Nalu, and I've been saying it for the past 2.5, 3 weeks, Israel and his lovely wife, Nalu, did a phenomenal job in crafting that song and getting the spirit, the pathos of the Zambian spirit, all encapsulated within that one song. So yes, thank you so much. Bless you. Enoch Mwansa, I have received the what? The what? Cheers. Good evening. Well, good evening to you. Okay, let's get into it. Just a few minutes I'm going to be with you. I won't take you long. I won't keep you long. I just wanted to say a couple of things. Post-election analysis. Everybody's talking about this. Everybody has different opinions on where we are now as opposed to where we were 2.5, 3 weeks ago. The country has changed. I've often quoted John Maxwell. John Maxwell, a very famous author, once said that everything rises and falls with leadership. Why? Because leadership sets the tone. And while leadership may only have a small window of opportunity, there are certain things that leaders do that have everlasting effects, or effects that linger, residual effects that sort of linger on long after they are gone. For example, today, to an average person, seeing a blue minibus in our streets, doesn't matter where you are, which city you are, within Zambia, if you look at a blue minibus, some people may not think anything of it, but there was a design behind coloring buses blue. This was back during the MMD days. They came up with this idea that let's do everything blue, including the public transportation. Well, Bachuluba has long gone. I mean, the president of the MMD has been dead for many years now. But that one decision still lingers today. So the point is, even though leadership has a window of opportunity, there are certain things that leaders do that linger on, that have a residual effect long after they are dead and gone. And so today, I'd like to focus a little bit on that, and I'll touch a few points. The first thing, though, I'd like to talk about is, let me throw it up here now. I'll get it right in a moment. A message to vloggers on how to handle political parties. All of us are susceptible to this trap. My advice has always been, and I still hold fast to that ideology, and it's this: if you are an artist, you are recognized for your craft. Don't water down your artistic ability for a political party. I would rather that you don't wear colors. That is one of the most important fundamental things that you could ever do for your career. Now, of course, I know that in Zambia, it's very easy to fall into this trap, especially when huge political parties come to you and they give you huge amounts of money. Sometimes that's very difficult to sort of fight against that temptation. But you really have to have foresight. As an artist, and depending on where you are, you really have to have foresight. You have to ask yourself the question, what are they asking me to do, and am I able to live with it? The most important thing, and I have to emphasize, never wear a political party's colors. I don't care who they are, whether it's green, blue, red. Don't marginalize yourself. Always try to maintain some semblance of neutrality, even though oftentimes that's very difficult to do. But you have to try and do that to maintain the legacy of your work, to sort of surround the body of your work with some level of integrity. I would prefer, and I've said this to you many times, if you have a huge platform and a political party comes to you and they say to you, we want you to do thus and so, etc., I would rather that you say to the political parties, give me your commercials, give me your adverts, and I will post them as adverts, and I will accept I'll accept commercials and adverts from anyone that pays. That's very important to make that distinction. But when you marginalize yourself and you say, I will only promote this party, I will only align myself with this party, I will only wear the colors of this party, you are treading on dangerous ground, and you are doing something that has the potential of denting your body of work. The other thing I wanted to say to you guys, artists and vloggers, musicians, is that don't deify political leaders. This is something that you really have to understand. God has given you guys, you artists, Yo Maps, Makitu, Mampi, so many others, Jordan Katembula, so many of you that are so talented. God has given you this amazing ability to craft music in a way that nobody else can do it, in a way that nobody else can. And so when a political party walks up to you and says, we want you to create a song, the worst thing you could ever do is deify a political leader. Deify meaning make them look like God. Don't ever do that, because ultimately it will come back to haunt you. The very best that you could do is probably sing their achievements, or the achievements that they claim to have achieved. But to sing songs where you worship, you idolize, you deify, you magnify a political character is dangerous. Very dangerous. Don't do it. My other point is this here. I really want to talk to you about this because I think this is really, really important in the grand scheme of things. Mr. Davis Mwila. You know, I've been going around the markets talking to different people. And one thing that constantly comes up is the fact that a lot of people in the markets were vilified, they were harmed, they were beaten, they were bruised, they were attacked, viciously so, simply because they wore colors. They wore the color of an opposition party. This message, guys, give me a moment. I forgot to plug in my laptop. Just give me a moment. Oh, can you believe it? I forgot to plug in my laptop. Because if I don't do it now, there you go. Boom, I'm back. What was I saying? I've been going through the markets, and one of the things that's come across very clearly is that during President Lungu's regime, a lot of people were victimized, beaten, attacked, brutally so. I believe that Mr. Davis Mwila should be held accountable for that. I'll never forget, and I know many of you remember this. There was one time Mr. Mwila was in the Copper Belt, and he was on a campaign trail. And I mean, it was heated. You know, the situation was dire, the stakes were high. And Mr. Davis Mwila was addressing a group of cadres and bus station owners and operators and marketeers. And I'll never forget what he said. And when he said it, my spirit grieved. He said, don't give these UPND guys an inch. Don't give them space. Don't give them room. And then he said something that really waved huge red flags. He said, if I want, all I have to do is give an order, and Hakainde Hichilema will never walk freely in the city of Lusaka. And that was during the time of the mighty Patriotic Front, as they like to refer to themselves. He said, all I have to do is give an order, and Mr. Hakainde Hichilema will never walk freely in the city of Lusaka. Now, when you say that to a group of degenerates, a group of drug-induced, drug-filled desperates that have no life, a group of young men that will kill you at the drop of a hat, when you say that to a group of delinquents, do you know what you're playing with? When Davis Wheeler uttered those words, that was a clarion call to violence. He incited the PF supporters to do everything within their power to silence, to snuff out, to crush Mr. Hichilema and his supporters. He should pay for that. Mr. Hichilema lived for many years in fear for his life. And the architect of that debacle, the architect of that message to incite, came from Davis Wheeler. He was the architect, and he should pay for that. And I ask, Comrade, this is Mr. Wheeler was addressing the Kabwe PF structures in Kabwe. Yes, that was the time he was doing this. That's the time he said this. Detrimental. A man that only had his interest at heart, not the country's. Now, I know this is something I constantly hear. You know, you'll say in the comments here, why are you brave now? You can't, why didn't you talk then? Well, you know what? You are so judgmental when you say that, because you're not sitting where I'm sitting. Do you know where I am? Let me be real with you for a moment, because I hear this comment constantly. Do you know where I sit here at City Market opposite Simoson? This was PF land. And Mr. Davis Wheeler at that time was a very powerful man. And there's certain things that you just, I mean, a person of my position, you can call it being coward all you want. I call it being smart. Why would I risk my life when we had freedom fighters in 1963 that risked their lives for us? Why should I risk my life and my family's life for telling the truth? There are people that are able to do that. I'm not one of them. And you can call that being coward. That's just the truth. You know. But I am so thankful that there are brave men and women out there who did it for us, for you and I. Pilato, Linda Kasonde, Alice Rollins, Mubitanawa, Anthony Wadia, so many Zambians that stood up for this nation and said, we will speak for our country. So many. So many. And so for me, I must tell you that Mr. Mwila and his cohorts have to be brought to book. They have to be. Because you see, if we don't learn from this, I mean, it's fine and dandy for us to say, well, let's forgive and forget. No, that's not the issue. Let's not get it twisted. It has nothing to do with forgiveness. Forgiveness is different from public accountability. I can forgive you in my personal capacity and say, hey, look, I don't harbor any ill feelings towards you. But if you shoot someone, you kill someone, guess what? The law will be used and applied against you. And we have to take note that this is a very important inflection point in our history. It's important to take the people to task that hatched this evil plan to divide this nation. Lastly, President Hichilema's posture. Now, I know he's just gone into office. He's got a long road ahead of him. Although the truth is, 5 years is a very short time. It goes by quick, y'all. Why do you think presidents love to be reelected? It's because by the time they turn around, 5 years is done. It's gone. Would be in another election cycle. And I know that there are lots of promises and things that President Hichilema made on the campaign trail. Of course, we know that he will not fulfill every last one of them. You know, Winston Churchill, and I often quote this, Winston Churchill once said, he famously said, he said, the mark of a good politician is to be able to tell the people what you're going to do once you're elected, and then turn around and explain to them why you couldn't do those things once you have been elected. That was Winston Churchill that said that. Let me say that again for those of you that missed it. The mark of a good politician is one that tells the people what he's going to do once he's elected, and then turning around and explaining to the people why he couldn't do those things after he's been elected. So my point is this: he's not going to get everything right. President Hichilema is not God. He's not perfect. He's not infallible. He's fallible. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to drop the ball sometimes. But let's hope that he doesn't drop the ball on the most important things. And one of the things I'd love to see from this president is someone that communicates with us on a regular basis. This was where President Lungu woefully missed it. President Lungu never spoke to us. He hardly did. And when he did, it was short. It was maybe at the airport or when he was appointing someone. Everything, well, not everything, but most of the time it was almost a by the way thing. I never did like that. It has to be deliberate. So President Hichilema's posture has to be one of decisiveness, engagement. He has to engage with us on a regular. Of course, I don't expect him to speak to us every 3.5 seconds, but I have to know that when something happens, I should be able to hear the president's voice first. The president's voice first, especially in this internet-ridden world we're living in. There's so many voices, but I'll have to be able to hear the president's voice first. The president's voice sets the tone. Sets the tone. All right, last point. And I know many of you have been asking about this. This made the rounds in social media yesterday. My response to unruly tenants a few months ago, about 6 months ago, one of our tenants here, I don't know these guys, how they come up with this stuff. You know, I hear this all the time on the road. Oh, you didn't build that building. You just inherited it, blah, 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 all that nonsense. And incidentally, inheritance is not something I talk about because that's not us. We just come here to work. But then when you've got a tenant who's abrasive, he doesn't respect authority, when you give guidance and they blatantly disregard that guidance, and then they're insulting at the same time, what do? You let them go, honey. You let them go. So we let that guy go. And the truth is, it is not true that we dismissed or we evicted 20 tenants. That is simply untrue. It's one tenant who has 3 shops, and we gave him notice, 6 months notice. We followed the law, and that's that. There was nothing sinister about it. It all had to do with the fact that he disrespected center management, and has been doing so for a long time. And so we as management decided, you know what, it's time to let this guy go. All right, guys, that's all I had to share with you. God bless you. I love this country just as much as you do. Be safe. Love each other. Love each other. Love each other, regardless of tribe. Forget tribalism. They were trying to split this country in half. They failed. The Zambian citizens said, nope, not today, not now, not ever, not ever. God bless you guys.